This is the third time I'm being sold this month, and honestly, it's starting to get annoying. Red light washes over my skin, making me look like something half-cooked. Overhead, lamps hum and flicker, throwing the underground hall into a mess of shadows and sickly glow. The air tastes like hot metal and cheap smoke. I can feel it sticking to the back of my throat. My bare feet are cold against the metal platform. It's raised in the center of the room like a stage, or more accurately like a display stand in a very illegal pet store. The collar around my neck pulses in steady intervals. The suppressant in my system adds a dull weight to the back of my skull, like someone's pressing their thumb into my brain. Not enough to blur my thoughts, just enough to remind me they own them. I keep my shoulders loose, chin up, posture casual. The trick is to look like you don't care that people are literally bidding on you. The crowd below is a sea of dark suits and expensive watches, faces half hidden by the dim red light. Laughter here and there, the occasional cough, the murmur of voices talking about prices like it's a normal Thursday. Above them, on a balcony shrouded in deeper shadow, the high rollers sit, silhouettes behind. Tinted glass, observing, judging, probably sipping something imported and bloody. I can't see their faces, but I can feel their eyes like insects crawling over my skin. Lot number 17, the auctioneer announces, stepping into my peripheral vision. His shoes click crisply on the metal. Prime Omega. Healthy, cooperative, wrong. With a calm, stable temperament. I have to stop myself from snorting out loud. If another man in a suit tries to describe my personality like a product label, I swear I'm going to find a way to bite someone. Suppressants don't do anything to your teeth. The auctioneer gestures at me with a gloved hand. No behavioral flags, fully trained, discreet, adaptable. In my head I correct him. Behavioral flags, yes, several. Fully trained, depends on what you want. Discreet, when it suits me. Adaptable, unfortunately yes. I let my eyes drift over the crowd, cataloging. There's a man near the front in a pale gray suit, narrow eyes and a too smooth smile. His security pin is from a cartel I've seen before, the kind that buys things they can't control just to prove they can break them. He's already looking at me like I'm going to be a fun project. Perfect. I hate him. We'll start the bidding at 50,000, the auctioneer says. A paddle rises almost instantly. 50. 55. 60. The numbers climb, the energy in the room sharpening as more paddles go up. The gray suit cartel guy joins in early and often, voice lazy whenever. He gives a number, like he knows no one will dare push him too far. My heart taps once, hard, then settles. On the outside, my face stays stuck in that blend of boredom and mild contempt I've spent years perfecting. 75. 80. 85 from Mr. Hahn, the auctioneer beams, flourishing his hand toward gray suit. Do I hear 90? If they push me into six figures I might scream. Not because of the money, because the more I cost, the more possessive people get, and I've had enough of that to last several lifetimes I don't have. The auctioneer draws breath to prod the room again. And that's when everything shifts. The doors at the far end of the hall open with a heavy groan. The sound itself isn't loud, but the reaction is. Conversations falter, then stop. Heads turn like they're pulled by a string. It's not that he looks special. It's that the room reacts around him. He walks in alone. No entourage, no fanfare. Just a tall figure in dark clothing that fits too perfectly to be off the rack. His shirt is open at the throat, sleeves rolled neatly to the forearms. He moves with a kind of contained, efficient ease, like his body forgot how to do unsteady. Even from here, under the haze of suppressant, I can feel the pressure of his presence. Alpha, obviously. Strong. The kind of strong that doesn't scream about it. As he comes closer, the red light catches his eyes, turning them into shards of steel. The whispers start in the front row and ripple back. Is that... Shit. It's him. River. Why is he here? The name lands in my head like a dropped coin. River. Yeah, I've heard that one. The auctioneer recovers fast, slick smile snapping back into place. Mr. River, he purrs. What an unexpected pleasure. River doesn't bother looking at him right away. His gaze sweeps the room in one slow pass. Guards, exits, bidders, balcony. He's not admiring the decor. He's measuring. Finally, his eyes rise to the platform and land on me. The sensation is instant and unpleasantly sharp, like stepping naked into a cold spotlight. He doesn't leer. He doesn't smirk. He just looks, and it feels like he's filing away every detail. How I'm standing, where my weight is, how I'm breathing, the way my fingers twitch against the cuff chain. I meet his gaze and give him my best "I'm bored of all of you" expression. He doesn't look away. "We're at 85,000 with Mr. Han," the auctioneer says, a note of nervousness slipping into his patter. "Do I hear 200, River says. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't raise his hand. He just wraps his mouth around the number and drops it into the silence. The effect is instantaneous. Even the guards by the walls freeze. The auctioneer laughs shakily. "I'm sorry, was that 200,000, River repeats, eyes still on me. The words sound like a statement, not a bid. Mr. Han in the gray suit stiffens. His jaw ticks. For a second, I think he might try to push it out of spite. Then he glances up at the balcony, at the people watching. Nobody moves. The auctioneer swallows. 200,000 from Mr. River. Do I have? River tilts his head slightly. You won't. The auctioneer shuts his mouth with an audible click. Going once, he says quickly. Going twice. Sold. Lot 17 goes to Mr. River. A light-headed kind of calm spreads through me. It doesn't matter who buys you, I remind myself. You're still bought. The crowd hums back to life, full of low speculation and the metallic taste of envy. Why an Omega? He doesn't keep anyone. Maybe it's a message. Maybe the Omega's special. I'm not. I'm just inconvenient. The cuffs around my wrists are unclasped. My arms drop to my sides, the skin beneath the metal itching. A guard takes a firm hold of my upper arm. Move. I lean into his grip just enough to be annoying. If you wanted to hold hands, you could have just asked. He grunts and pushes me forward. As we pass River, I look at him from closer range. Up close, he's even worse. His features are clean and sharp, like someone carved them with the same precision as this place's architecture. There's no visible mark on him. No scar, no flaw. It should make him look less real. Somehow, it makes him more dangerous. We make eye contact again. Something tightens in my chest. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't have to. The guard tugs me on. They take me out through a back corridor, the sound of the auctioneer's voice fading behind us. The hallway is narrow, lit by dim strips along the floor. The walls are damp to the touch. Every footstep lands with a hollow thud, echoing somewhere deeper in the concrete. Congratulations, I tell the guard. You guys really nailed the secret villain lair vibe. Is there a Shark Tank or is that in the premium section? He squeezes my arm harder. Shut up. Rude. We step out into a loading bay where the air is a little fresher. A sleek black car waits with its engine purring quietly. Of course it's black. Of course it looks like it ate 3 lesser cars to achieve its final form. River is already there, leaning against the side, arms loosely crossed. He looks like he belongs in some magazine spread titled, Reasons You Should Worry. The guard shoves me toward the back door. Careful, I say lightly. Bruise the merchandise and he might ask for a refund. River's gaze flicks to the guard's hand, then to my face. Get in, he says to me. No please. I ask. What has the world come to? His eyes narrow just a little. Get in, Felix. The way he says my name sends a weird little shock through me. I don't like it. I climb into the back seat. The leather is cold and soft. The guard closes the door behind me with a solid final sound. River gets in on the other side. The car glides away from the bay, into the city's veins. We sit in silence. Streetlights streak by in thin lines of yellow and white through the tinted glass. My head leans back, heavier than it should be. So, I say eventually, 200,000, huh? You know they would have let you have me for less. I wasn't interested in a bargain, he says. Right. You strike me as more of a, buy the whole store to prove a point type. He doesn't answer. His profile is calm, almost bored. His fingers rest lightly on his knee, relaxed but ready. I hope you got what you wanted, I add. Because I bite. He turns his head toward me. I didn't buy you to behave, he says. I bought you so he, a slight emphasis must be gray suit, didn't. So it's not about me at all. It never is. Good news, I say. I hate him more than I hate you so far. You're winning? One corner of his mouth almost moves. The car hums along. The suppressant throbs in my bloodstream. I can feel the weight of his presence, steady and heavy, like a second gravity. The window is right next to my head. The glass isn't that thick. If I hit it at the right angle, with enough force, I shift slightly. coil my muscles, and slam my shoulder and the back of my head toward the glass. I barely move. His hand catches my wrist mid-motion, fingers closing around it with precise, unhurried strength. The rest of me jerks to a stop, breathing knocked off rhythm. "Don't," he says quietly. I stare at him, teeth bared. "Let go." His eyes hold mine. Up close, they're even more unnerving. Cool, assessing, something sharp hiding under the surface. "Try that again," he says, voice like ground steel, "and you'll break your arm." I force a thin smile. "Yours or mine?" "Yours," he replies. "Breaking mine would be inefficient." He holds my wrist for one more second, then releases it. The skin there tingles where his fingers were, like the echo of static. I pull my hand back, flexing it, trying to pretend it doesn't shake. The rest of the ride, I stay still. Not because I'm scared, I tell myself, but because I don't feel like handing him another easy victory. I look out the window, at the blur of the city, at the gates that eventually rise in front of us, tall, reinforced, crowned with cameras and spikes. Whatever waits past them, I know one thing. This alpha is not like the others. And that makes him a whole different kind of problem. River's residence looks exactly like I expected. Concrete. Glass. Steel. Clean lines and uncomfortable angles. The kind of place architects describe as honest and therapists describe as a cry for help. The car glides through a security gate the size of a small fortress. Cameras track our movement. Guards don't look at me directly, but they don't take their eyes off me either. I'm escorted inside without ceremony. No cuffs, no leash, which frankly feels suspicious. The interior is worse than the outside. Everything is too clean. Not a single personal object in sight, no photos, no art that isn't abstract and soulless. The air smells faintly of disinfectant and money. Even the silence feels expensive. "This is the guest wing," one of the guards says, opening a glass door with a discreet palm scan. Inside, a bedroom bigger than any apartment I've ever owned, floor-to-ceiling windows reinforced, with transparent steel mesh, minimalist furniture arranged with surgical precision. I step inside, look around, then back at them. "That's it?" I ask. "No dungeon? No chains on the walls?" Honestly, false advertising. The guard's jaw tightens. "Rules," he says. "You stay in this wing. You don't..." I reach past him, grab a crystal glass from a sideboard, and let it slip from my fingers. It shatters beautifully on the concrete floor. The sound echoes. I look down at the mess, then back up at him. "Oh. Oops." The guard takes a step toward me. I smile. Soft. Sweet. Deadly. "If you touch me," I say lightly, "I swear you'll be missing a finger before your brain figures out why." Silence. Another guard shifts behind him. Tension snaps tight. Perfect. They escort me in fully, but now they're wary. Good. Wary men make mistakes. The moment they step out, I move. I don't scream. I don't throw furniture like a child. I do something worse. I disrupt order. I drag a chair 6 inches off alignment. Pull open every cabinet and leave them half ajar. Rearrange the minimalist sculpture on the table so it's just slightly wrong. Then I knock another glass onto the floor for good measure. When the door slides open again, one of the guards groans quietly. "Already?" he mutters. Across the hall, I catch a glimpse of River standing still, watching. He doesn't say a word. Doesn't intervene. Just observes. That makes my spine prickle. Lunch arrives an hour later. A tray. Balanced. Nutritious. Calibrated to omega metabolic charts. Probably designed by a machine with a doctorate. I eye it like it personally insulted me. "No," I say. The attendant pauses. "Sir." I said no. "You need to eat." I sit on the edge of the table and kick my feet lazily. You ever notice how that sentence always comes right before someone tries to control you? River's voice cuts in from behind him. "You're trying to starve yourself?" I look over. He's standing in the doorway now, jacket off, sleeves rolled, eyes sharp. He looks irritated. Not angry, yet, but very close to it. "If I wanted to die," I say, "I would have offered a bulk discount at the auction." Something flashes across his face. Gone too fast to name. "This isn't a tactic," he says. "You caused damage to yourself, not me." "Congratulations," I reply. "You figured out my childhood coping strategy." He exhales slowly, controlled. I can practically hear him counting. "Eat. No." We stare at each other. A battle. except neither of us raises our voice. Finally he turns to the attendant. Leave it. The door slides shut. I watch him carefully. You're bad at this. At what? Owning people. I'm not interested in owning you, he says flatly. Oh. I grin. That's adorable. Then why am I behind bulletproof glass? He doesn't answer. Instead he leaves. Which is not what I expected. The attempt happens later. The kitchen smells amazing. Warm. Real. Bread, protein, something citrusy. It almost tricks my body into behaving. Almost. I grab a metal serving tray, pivot sharply, and slam it into the side of a guard's head. He yelps, stumbling sideways. Too slow. I bolt. Bare feet on cold floor, heart pounding, turning sharp corners blind. I shove past a service door, then another. There's a window ahead, small, reinforced but openable. I launch myself at it. Strong hands grab me mid-air. I snarl and lash out, elbow catching someone square in the ear. A muffled curse. Then, enough. The word cracks through the chaos like gunfire. River's voice. Not loud, just absolutely final. Everything stops. Not because I'm scared, because I'm stunned. He doesn't shout. He doesn't threaten. He just commands, and the entire space seems to obey him. Even me. My chest heaves. I blink. Slow. River steps closer. His eyes search my face, not angrily. Not cruelly. Curiously. You're not weak, he says. Not a question. No, I answer. My voice is steadier than I feel. I'm just hard to keep. Something settles in his gaze then. Decision. Later, alone again in my room, I find the camera in the corner. I crank the sound system to maximum. Music explodes through the wing. Loud, obscene, joyful. I dance. Badly. On purpose. I spin. World blurring, flipping the camera a salute. Smile, I tell it. I've got witnesses. I collapse onto the bed afterward, laughing and breathless. The laughter fades. Silence creeps back in. I stare at the ceiling and think, why is he not hurting me? And somewhere else in the house, I know River is thinking something far more dangerous. Why isn't he afraid? And neither of us likes the answers forming. By the third day, the house stops feeling like a threat and starts feeling like a very expensive, very boring prison. Which is, honestly, worse. I'm sitting on the bed, flipping a pillow back and forth between my hands, when the door unlocks with a quiet hiss. A guard appears. Boss wants you, he says. Oh good, I reply. I was just thinking my morning needed more authoritarian energy. He doesn't react. They're getting better at that. I swing my legs off the bed and stand. The suppressant hums faintly under my skin, but there's a new edge to it, like static with teeth. My temples pulse in time with my heartbeat. I ignore it. We walk through the guest wing, then into the main corridor. This part of the house is different. Colder. Less hospital luxury, more war room disguised as a design magazine spread. The hall opens into a set of wide double doors. The guard palms a panel. The doors slide aside. River's office is a statement. Holographic panels float over a long dark table, figures, names, moving maps from different parts of the city. A massive display on one wall shows a stylized map carved into zones of influence, glowing faintly in muted colors. Some sections pulse red, like wounds. The light in here is cooler than the rest of the house. No soft lamps, just recessed strips in the ceiling, washing everything in a clean, surgical glow. It doesn't feel like a place where people work. It feels like a place where wars are planned. There are already 5 people at the table. 4 men, 1 woman, all in variations of dark suit and permanent stress. They look up when I enter, expressions flicking from curiosity to annoyance to calculation. River stands at the head of the table, sleeves rolled as usual, eyes on one of the floating displays. When he looks up at me, the room goes a shade quieter. Sit, he says, nodding toward a chair along the wall, away from the main group. I consider refusing just to see what happens. But my head is buzzing, and honestly, sitting sounds nice, so I drop into the chair, slouching enough to look unimpressed. I cross my arms. Look bored. Listen to everything. As I was saying, one of the men continues, shooting me a quick, disapproving glance. The leak has to be from the docks team. We had only internal staff on that shipment. That's not accurate, the woman says crisply. We used an external driver for the southern route. If anyone talked, the driver was vetted. So was the last one, and he still disappeared with half a truck. Voices rise, overlapping. Accusations bounce around the table like bullets ricocheting off steel. Words like routing codes, encrypted manifests, lost containers, and police tip-offs float through the air. I lean my head back against the wall and close my eyes halfway, letting my other senses do the work. The suppressant doesn't block everything, it can't. It just muffles, blurs, takes the edge off. But edges have a way of growing back when you abuse them long enough. Fear smells sharp, like cold metal and old coffee. Aggression is hotter, spiced with sweat and adrenaline. Lies have a scent too, if you know what to look for. Not one smell, but a pattern. The way someone's skin goes sour for a heartbeat. The way their breathing changes. The way their pulse sharpens. The room is full of all three. If you'd secured the northern warehouses, we wouldn't be having this conversation, the woman mutters. I've secured everything I can with the manpower I've got, the man next to her snaps. You're the one who insisted on reallocating. Enough, River says. He doesn't raise his voice. They shut up anyway. He taps a finger against the edge of the table. We've lost 3 shipments in 2 weeks. All on different routes. All with altered manifests. That doesn't happen by accident. His gaze moves from face to face, cool and unblinking. The air tightens. The person leaking our data is sitting at this table, he says calmly. Or it's someone who hears what's said in this room and passes it on. Which means the circle is small, very small. Protests start immediately. Boss, you can't seriously think. I've been here 10 years. My loyalty. River's jaw flexes. I watch his hands. They're steady. Too steady. His eyes, though, they have an extra shine to them today. A razor glint. He's close to snapping. Not like shouting, throwing things, theatrics. That's not him. River's version of snapping is colder. Sharper. Precision strikes. You all know what I can do, he says, voice almost gentle. You know I can tell when you're lying. They fall silent. One of them, guy in a blue tie, thinning hair, audibly swallows. He continues. And I know at least 2 of you just lied in the last minute. The silence gets louder. My lips twitch. This is better than most of the shows I used to stream between shifts. If you're trying to flush someone out, accusing half the room isn't efficient, I murmur. One of the guys at the table shoots me a glare. Why is he even in here? I widen my eyes innocently. Moral support. River doesn't look back at me, but one corner of his mouth tilts in something that might be amusement. He's here because I asked him to be, he says. You're here because you keep failing at your jobs. Let's keep our priorities straight. Ouch. The next 30 minutes are a study in controlled tension. Reports are reviewed, timelines dissected. The guy with thinning hair, Miguel, someone calls him, keeps pointing fingers at external drivers, rival gangs, random fluctuations in fate itself. The woman, Lana, calls him on every exaggeration. River listens, asks precise questions, narrowing the path of logic. I listen too. Every time someone's voice wobbles, every time someone looks at the wrong person at the wrong moment, every time the scent in the room shifts toward sour anxiety, I file it away. Not that I'm helping. Out loud anyway. I'm just the omega in the corner, yawning occasionally. Eventually, River ends it. We're done for now, he says. Lana, stay. The rest of you, get out. I want revised route proposals by tonight. Chairs scrape. People file out. Some shoot me looks on the way, everything from disdain to curiosity to resentment. I give them a lazy smile in return. The doors slide shut. For a moment, the room is much too quiet. You listened, River says, breaking it. I stretch my legs out, ankle over ankle. You were practically shouting strategy at the walls. Hard not to. I wasn't shouting, he says mildly. For you, that was shouting. He turns his head to face me fully. Well, what? You heard more than you let on. He's not wrong. I sit up a little straighter, head throbbing in time with my heartbeat. You don't need my input. You have your own magical lie detector thing going on. He regards me steadily. It's not magic, it's chemistry. Wow. Sexy. Felix. The way he says my name, flat, patient, no threat, just wait, makes my chest tighten in a way I absolutely refuse to examine. I sigh. Blue tie is panicking too much to be smart enough for this, I say. He's guilty of being incompetent, not of masterminding anything. Lana's clean, The guy at the far end with the scar under his jaw said he didn't tell anyone about the manifests, but he thought about his girlfriend when you asked. So, either she's suddenly into logistics, or he talks in his sleep. River's expression shifts almost imperceptibly, focus sharpening. You read all that from a scar? He asks. I read it from the way he sniffed when you mentioned the southern route, I reply. And the way his pupils blew when you said, inside this room. People are just walking, talking tells. And here I thought you were only good at breaking glass, he says. Oh, I contain multitudes. The room tilts, just a little. I blink, then blink again when the floor tries to do a slow wave under my feet. The cool light feels too bright, like knives behind my eyes. Suppressants humming. Static climbing. My pulse stutters, then surges. River's brows draw together. Felix? Relax, I say, waving a hand that's suddenly not entirely under my control. The room just decided to go swimming without me. The air smells sharper now. Not just the cold steel and coffee and ozone from the tech, but something else. I realize belatedly that it's me. Exhaustion has a scent, when you push your body too far for too long. Sour, thin, frayed at the edges. Even with my own senses dulled, I can taste it on my tongue. River's nostrils flare just slightly. He takes a step closer. When was the last time you updated your suppressant? He asks. I stare at a point somewhere near his shoulder because looking him in the eye suddenly feels like it would require too much effort. Don't remember, don't care. Felix. It's fine, I insist. My fingers tremble when I push off the chair, and I pretend not to notice. I'll just go lie down before your decor starts melting. That would be tragic. I take one step. 2. The third goes wrong. The static in my veins spikes into a short, vicious burst of white noise. My vision tunnels. The floor lurches again, this time harder, and my knees decide they're over it. I pitch forward. Strong hands catch me before my face can reenact the glass disaster from earlier. One grips my upper arm, the other finds the small of my back with terrifying ease, holding me upright in a warm, solid bracket. I'd protest, but my brain is busy trying to reboot. Hey, River says quietly, right next to my ear. His breath is warm against my temple. Stay with me. You know, I mumble, for someone who doesn't like omegas, you're very handsy. His chest huffs in what might almost be a laugh. He adjusts his grip, careful but firm, taking more of my weight without making a big show of it. Can you stand? He asks. I am standing, I argue. He glances down at my feet. You're doing something. I'm not sure I'd call it standing. The hallway outside his office is dimmer than the room, lights here set lower to a cooler hue. He steers me that way. One arm still around my back, one hand around my forearm, fingers spanning almost completely. I try to pull away. It's pure reflex. Let go, I say through clenched teeth. No, he answers, soft but absolute. The word settles over my skin like a second collar. Not the choking, burning kind. Just unmovable. My body shakes once, a fine tremor running from my shoulders down to my fingertips. Embarrassment burns hot in my cheeks. I hate this. Hate being weak. Hate leaning on anyone who isn't going to drop me on purpose. He must feel it, the tremor, because his hold shifts, hand at my back spreading. Wider. Thumb pressing just above my spine like he's anchoring me. This isn't control, he says, almost as if he's answering something I didn't say out loud. It's support. Try to tell the difference. I would come up with a sharp reply, something about how those two things feel dangerously similar when you've been owned and sold and used as a bargaining chip, but the words stick in my dry throat. So I just breathe. One step at a time, we move down the corridor, his warmth pressed solidly against my side, my heart hammering hard enough to make my head spin. I don't like being touched. I don't like being held up. But for the first time since I was dragged onto that auction stage, I feel something unfamiliar in the way someone's holding me. Not leverage. Not possession. Something that feels uncomfortably close to concern. Dangerous, I think. Not sure if I mean him or me. Very, very dangerous. By the time River gets me back to my room, my legs feel like they're made of wet string. The corridor lights have come back on, cold white, humming faintly. But my ears are still full of static from the blackout and the sprint that followed. Every step sends a dull echo up through my bones. The suppressant buzz that usually just hums under my skin has turned into a full-body off-key orchestra. He doesn't drag me. That would almost be easier. He just walks beside me, One hand wrapped around my forearm, steady and unyielding, adjusting his pace to mine like we're taking a casual stroll instead of heading back from my second failed escape attempt. Let go, I mutter. You're shaking, he says. So let me fall dramatically. I'm sure the cameras will love it. He doesn't dignify that with an answer. We reach the door to my room. It slides open with its usual quiet hiss. Inside, the lights are softer, warm golden pools instead of surgical white. Whoever programmed the lighting here understood ambience at least. River steers me in, then releases my arm only when I'm close enough to the bed that if I collapse, I'll hit something padded instead of the floor. I do not collapse. I sit down. Slowly. On purpose. Because I choose to. Not because my knees are throwing up the white flag. The room is almost cozy like this. The bedside lamp casts a gentle glow across the sheets, the rug, the walls. The harsh lines of concrete and glass soften at the edges, blurring into something that looks suspiciously like a place a human being might rest. I hate it. There's a high-pitched whine in my ears, like someone left an old TV on somewhere. My fingers won't stop trembling. It's very annoying. You're pale, River says. Wow, I say, trying for flippant and landing somewhere closer to breathless. Thanks. Really loving the compliments tonight. He stands in front of me, studying my face. He's back in his usual uniform. Dark shirt, dark pants, sleeves rolled, but now there are gloves. Black leather, snug over his fingers, the kind people wear when fingerprints are an optional extra. His gaze drops to my hands. The tremor is more obvious up close. I curl my fingers into fists, like that'll help. He sighs quietly, and pulls off one glove, then the other, tucking them into his pocket. Lie down, he says. Buy a guy dinner first, I mutter. Felix. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't need to. It lands with that same low, precise weight it had in the kitchen. The room tilts just a little as I look up at him. The static in my ears swells. I could insist on standing. Could push back just to prove I can. But the bed is right there. And the floor seems determined to flirt with my face. I give in. Fine, I grumble, easing back until my shoulders hit the pillows. But if you tuck me in, I'm biting you. That appears to be your solution to most things, he says dryly. He steps closer and reaches out, slow, deliberate. One bare hand brushes my forehead, then my cheek, cool against my too hot skin. My breath hitches before I can stop it. I'm not used to this. Usually touch means something loud, anger, control, desperation. This is quiet. Clinical, almost. But there's a focus to it that makes my skin buzz. His palm lingers at my temple a fraction longer than necessary. You're burning up, he says. Good thing I'm not flammable, I answer. The decor would be a tragedy. His eyes flick down to mine, unimpressed. You're weak. Is it the suppressant? He asks. I snort. No. I just saw your face. For a heartbeat, there's silence. Then, to my utter horror, the corner of his mouth lifts. Did I just make him almost smile? Your sense of self-preservation is non-existent, he says calmly. Thanks, I work hard on it. A wave of dizziness crashes over me, stealing the rest of the comeback. The ceiling blurs slightly, the edges of the room going soft. I close my eyes for a second, just to steady the spinning. Bad move. When I open them again, he's sitting on the edge of the bed, close enough that the mattress dips. He's not touching me, but that almost makes it worse. The space between us hums with unspoken things. You ran straight into a darkened wing with a failing suppressant and no backup, he says. That's not brave. That's suicidal. Yeah, well, I manage. Suicidal is cheaper than moving. He exhales through his nose. Frustrated. When was the last time you had your dose adjusted? He asks. Properly. By someone who knew what they were doing. I look past him, toward the shadowed corner where the security camera sits. Define knew what they were doing, I say. Not whoever you've been seeing. That's harsh, I murmur. The last one had a very official coat. Starch and everything. Felix, my name again. He keeps doing that. Like he's trying it on for fit. The buzzing in my skull crawls down into my chest, squeezing. My fingers twitch against the sheets. The collar at my throat feels heavier, like it gained weight in the last hour. I hate this, I say suddenly. It slips out before I can pretty it up. I hate it when alphas do the whole concerned face thing. It's weird. What thing? He asks. The hovering thing. The "oh no, my fragile omega might keel over" thing. The "let me check your temperature and mood and blood sugar" thing. The caring thing. I pull a face. It's gross. He actually huffs a quiet laugh. Noted. I'll try to keep the grossness to a minimum. Please do. His hand moves again, fingers brushing lightly along the side of my neck, just under the edge of the collar. He's not doing anything more than checking my pulse, but my body doesn't care about the distinction. My heart stutters, then thumps harder against his touch like it's trying to jump ship. I tell myself that's just the suppressant misfiring. He frowns, concentrating. Your pulse is too fast. Congratulations, I mumble. You're bad for my heart. He shakes his head slightly. When did you last update your suppressant levels? Exactly. I stare up at him. The room hums. Words tangle in my mouth. Don't remember, I say. Lies, he says immediately, not unkindly. Try again. His ability to read people isn't just metaphorical. I've seen it now. How he watches, how he listens, the way his instincts latch on when someone isn't telling the whole truth. It's not supernatural. It's worse. It's practice. I swallow. Couple of weeks, I say finally. Maybe 3. His eyes sharpen. Who administered it? Some guy, I say. White coat, stethoscope, no soul. Name? The question hits something raw in my head. Maybe it's the fever, or the suppressant tearing at the edges of my concentration, but I say it without thinking. Morita, I murmur. Like Kyle's favorite dog. The name hangs in the air between us. Kyle. It takes me a second to realize I've said it out loud. By the time my brain catches up, it's too late. Everything in River goes still. His hand tightens ever so slightly where it rests against my neck. Not enough to hurt. Enough to remind me, it's there. The warmth in his gaze shuts down, replaced by something cold and blade-sharp. Repeat that, he says quietly. My throat closes up around nothing. Distant thunder grumbles behind the glass windows. Or maybe that's just the blood rushing in my ears. I start. You did, he cuts in. Calm and lethal. You said Kyle. He doesn't have to say the full name. It hangs there anyway. Kyle Morita. The rival whose men tried to buy me. The man whose operations River has been dismantling piece by bloody piece, if the whispers are true. My skin goes cold under the fever heat. I force myself to meet his eyes. Where did you hear that name? He asks. It's not loud. It doesn't have to be. There's enough weight packed into those 7 words to crush concrete. For a heartbeat, something inside me flares, a flash of the warehouse, the stench of oil and fear, Kyle's voice like ice on the back of my neck, a hand on my jaw, tilting my face up. The promise of what happens to property that stops being profitable. My fingers curl in the sheets. And just like that, all the bravado drains out of me. The urge to retreat hits so hard I almost physically flinch. I shut down my face the way I've trained myself to for years. Muscles smoothing, eyes dulling, mouth flattening into something careless. From a news article, I say lightly. You know how it is. Your name in one column, his in another, big red lines saying top 10 most likely to murder each other. Very romantic. His gaze sharpens even more. He doesn't buy it. Of course he doesn't. The static in my ears crescendos. I turn my head away, suddenly very interested in the pattern of the wall. Drop it, I add, quieter. It's not important. Felix, he starts. I'm tired, I say, which is the truth. And your interrogation voice is making it worse. There. Redirect. Joke. Hide. The silence that follows is thick and heavy, pressing at my ribs. Then, abruptly, I grab the nearest pillow and hurl it at his head. It's a terrible throw. My arm is weak and the angle is all wrong. But the pillow still arcs toward his face with sad determination. He catches it with one hand. Easily. Like he saw it coming 10 seconds before I moved. Of course he does. We stare at each other. My chest rises and falls too fast. His expression is unreadable. You're impossible, he says finally. Good. I reply hoarsely. Then we match. He keeps the pillow. Doesn't throw it back. Doesn't drop it. Just holds it loosely, fingers pressed into the fabric, like he's claiming. This tiny, ridiculous piece of territory in my carefully curated mess. My vision blurs at the edges again. The room swims. For a second, my carefully flat mask slips. I know it, and worse, I know he sees it. Not the sarcasm. Not the constant edge of anger. The thing underneath. The flash of something too close to panic when his questions hit old wounds. The way my body tenses for impact that never comes. He sees it, and he doesn't look away. The hand at my neck eases, thumb brushing once against my skin. Not possessive, not restraining. Just there. Present. I'm not going to hit you, he says quietly. My throat works. No sound comes out. I hate that it matters. I hate that my heart stutters at those words like they're some kind of gift. Rest, he adds. We'll talk later. He stands, still holding the stolen pillow, and steps back. The warm light catches on the line of his jaw, the shadow of stubble, the faint, almost invisible crease between his brows. Then he turns and walks to the door. It slides open, then closed again, leaving me alone with the soft hum of the air system and the ghost of his touch on my skin. I stare at the ceiling, breathing shallowly, fingers still curled in the sheets. I've been handled, owned, traded, threatened. I know what fear looks like on other people's faces. I know what it feels like in my own bones. But this quiet patient, entirely too observant alpha who doesn't hit, who doesn't yell, who looks at me like a puzzle instead of a possession. That's new. And for the first time in a very long time, I'm not sure if that makes me safer. Or so much more breakable. Rain makes this place sound human. It drums against the floor-to-ceiling windows of River's office in a steady, relentless rhythm, softening the edges of all the sharp things inside, glass, steel, him. I sit in one of the chairs opposite his desk. My knees bounce. My hands won't stop shaking, so I lace my fingers together and grip until my knuckles pale. It doesn't help. Outside, the city is a blur of smeared neon and moving shadows. Inside, everything is too clear. The office is all cold light and harder surfaces. Holographic panels hovering above the desk, a huge map of the city's sectors projected on one wall in faint blue lines, pins marking territory and hotspots. There's a long table off to the side where earlier tonight his inner circle stood and argued about leaks and threats and losses, while I pretended to be dramatically bored in the corner. Now it's just us. And the rain. River stands with his back to me for a few seconds longer than necessary, hands in his pockets. Shoulders held in that disciplined line that says he's not as calm as he's pretending to be. The white of his shirt glows faintly under the cool overhead lights. His reflection in the window is a taller, darker shadow layered over the city's restless glow. He finally turns. Talk, he says. Now. No preamble, no fake politeness. Just that. I lift one shoulder in a half shrug that I hope reads more blasé than shaky. That's very specific. You might want to narrow it down. I have a lot of material. His eyes sharpen. Felix. Hearing my name in that tone sends a strange little shiver through me. My mouth is dry. My palms are damp. I hate both of those things. What if you don't like it? I ask, aiming for light and landing somewhere closer to frayed. Then we'll deal with it, he says. But you're going to say it anyway. My gaze flits briefly to the window. The rain's picked up, hitting harder, like the sky's arguing with the ground. He steps around the desk and comes closer, stopping at the edge of the light pooling from the holographic displays. Up close, I can see the fine tension at the corners of his mouth, the faint shadows under his eyes. If he slept more than I did, I'd be surprised. When did you last replace your suppressant? He asks abruptly. I blink. Wow. Romance really isn't your angle, is it? Felix. He takes another step, and I feel it then. The way the air around us thickens. The faintest trace of his scent curling under the suppressant's chemical. Fog, sharp and clean, like rain on asphalt and something electric. My head throbs. The collar at my throat feels tighter than before. I'm not asking for fun, he says. Your scent is wrong. You're burning yourself out. Good, I mutter. Maybe I'll explode. Really liven up your decor. His jaw ticks. Take it off. My heart stutters. What? The collar, he says. Or lower the dose. You told me earlier you hate caring alphas. Consider this clinical interest. Right. I laugh. Too loud, too brittle. And let my system crash on your nice clean floor? Hard pass. His eyes narrow. You think I brought you up here to watch you collapse? I don't know what you brought me up here for, I snap, before I can stop myself. You dragged me from the guest room like an overdue report, and now you're staring at me like I'm a broken asset. So, forgive me if I'm not dying to make myself more vulnerable. The word dragged isn't quite accurate. I walked. On my own feet. But it felt like that, coming up through the quiet hallways, following the guard who wouldn't meet. My eyes, the rain already starting outside, the knot in my gut twisting tighter with every step. River studies me for a long moment. Then his expression shifts, something assessing sliding into place. Fine, he says. Keep the suppressant. Lie to yourself if that's easier. He steps back just enough that I can breathe, then gestures toward the chair with a short tilt of his chin. Start with this afternoon, he says. In your room. You said a name you shouldn't know. Ah, right, that. I swallow, mouth suddenly sand dry. The chair creaks softly as I lean back, forcing my shoulders to relax. It slipped, I say. You startled me. People say weird things when they almost fall on their face in front of their kidnapper. Felix. He doesn't raise his voice, but there's a thread of steel in it that cuts through my sarcasm like it's tissue. He moves to sit on the edge of the desk, not behind it, like he's deliberately removing the physical barrier. His knees are level with my view now. The map on the wall hums quietly behind him. Cade Juan, he says, voice flat. That's the name you used. Enemy of my syndicate, former partner. Man I've been in a cold war with for 3 years. You make terrible friends, I say. Because I can't help it. His eyes darken. The details you mentioned, places, dates, shipments. Only 4 people were ever privy to them. 4. And they're all in this building. Correction, I murmur. 3, plus 1, who got sold at a discount. His hand curls around the edge of the desk. His knuckles go white. Talk, he repeats, quieter now. Tell me what he did. And what you did. There are a lot of things I'm good at ignoring. Pain. Hunger. Fear. Silence isn't one of them. I force a breath into my lungs and let it out slowly. My chest still feels too tight. You want the short version or the painfully honest one? I ask. The truth, he says. All of it. I bark a humorless laugh. You say that like it's easy. He leans forward slightly, and I catch it again, his attention narrowing, the subtle intensification of his scent. My instincts twitch helplessly against the suppressant. Take off the mask, Felix, he says. You're not as good at pretending as you think. My fingers tremble harder. I hide them by pressing my palms against my thighs. Fine, I say. You want it? Here, have it. I stare past him, past the desk, past the rain-streaked window, into memories I've tried very hard to file under do not open. I met Cade's people 3 years ago. I start. I was working at a club in the East Quarter. You know the type. Loud, neon, too much perfume and cheap liquor. Everyone pretending they weren't dying inside. His mouth twitches, just barely. Encouragement or impatience, I'm not sure. They liked that I had a good memory, I continue. Faces, voices, dates. I'd overhear deals in very important person rooms, remember who was there, what they ordered, how nervous they smelled. Word got back to someone high enough that suddenly I'm getting offers. I make quotation marks in the air, and immediately regret the way my hands shake. Polite at first. Extra money to pass on what I heard. Names, times, the usual. Then less polite, less optional. My throat tightens. I clear it. When an alpha with 6 bodyguards tells you you're going to work for him and smiles while he says it, it's not a conversation, I say. It's a sentence. The rain is louder now. It fills the pauses, when my voice doesn't want to continue. At first it was small things, I say. I'd report which territories were being visited by which crews. Which docks got busier before certain shipments. They said it was market research. That they weren't going to touch civilians. That they only wanted to know what their enemies were doing. My lips twist. I wanted to believe that. It made it easier to sleep. River doesn't say anything. He's very still, but I can feel how tightly he's coiled. Then it wasn't small things, I add. They started asking for schedules, patterns, security rotations, the names of people who looked important. I glance at him pointedly. I heard your name long before you heard mine, I say. You were the ghost story they told each other, the one they hated and admired at the same time. His expression doesn't change, but there's something in his eyes now. A colder focus. The docks in Sector 12, I go on, voice flattening. 3 winters ago. The shipment of medical equipment that wasn't medical at all. The off-book deal at Pier 19 where your people walked in thinking they were picking up a favor and instead walked into an ambush. I swallow hard. The taste of smoke and salt clogs my throat. That ambush only happened because someone gave Cade your exact route, your exact numbers, your contingency plans. I let that hang between us. They didn't tell me the names. But they bragged enough that I could piece it together. River's fingers dig into the desk edge. Holographic light glows faintly across the backs of his hands, flickering with the shifting map behind him. They were very proud of that one, I say, and my voice comes out quieter than I intend. Talked about how they had someone so deep in your inner circle that you'd never see them coming. Called him their ghost in your walls. My hands are shaking again. I curl them into fists. They used me to track fallout after that, I say. Which sectors went quiet, which ones flared up, where your people moved, how fast. And you stayed, River says softly. There's no accusation in it. Somehow that makes it worse. I tried to leave, I snap. Twice. The second time they sent someone to explain my value to me. My skin crawls, remembering the cold press of a gun against the back of my neck. The low, patient voice explaining just how easily an unclaimed Omega can disappear. My laugh comes out brittle. Kay doesn't like wasting resources, people are assets or liabilities. He decided I wasn't quite done being useful. Until? River prompts when I fall quiet. Until I overheard them talking about selling me, I say. Not to a buyer. To whoever would pay most for the symbolism. I pull a face. An Omega informant from their side, gifted to one of their enemies. Wrapped up like a nice little threat. I didn't wait to find out who the lucky winner was going to be. I drag in a breath. I ran. It was messy. I almost didn't get out, failed technically. They caught me. You know the rest. Auctions. Collars. Hands on my skin that didn't care whether I was human. My eyes are glassy now. I blink hard, furious at the sting. River watches me. Profile lit in cold blue. His nostrils flare, just a little. You're lying about one thing, he says quietly. My stomach drops, even though I expected it. Which one? You said you failed. His gaze pins me. You didn't. I look away. Yeah, well, tell that to my stellar career trajectory. He exhales slowly, and I realize his own hands are no longer clenched. The room feels different. Warmer, somehow, despite the cold light. You know who my traitor is, he says. Not a question. I stare at the rain. I know enough, I hedge. Patterns. Voices. The way some of your people tense when certain names are mentioned. The fact that one of your lieutenants smells like expensive cologne and quiet panic whenever Cade's ports come up. Name, River says. That steel edges back into his voice. Now. My mouth goes dry again. I lick my lips. It's not free, I say. His head snaps a fraction to the side, like he's not sure he heard me right. Excuse me? The smart part of my brain is screaming at me to shut up. The rest of me is so tired of being tossed between monsters, that the words tumble out anyway. I'm not giving you a name just to become more convenient property, I say. You want me to hand you your ghost? Then I want something back. Anger flashes across his face, bright and raw, shattering that careful composure for the first time since I've known him. You're bargaining, he says, incredulous. After telling me you helped the man who's been bleeding my people out for years, you think you're in a position to negotiate? I didn't help him, I snap. I survived him. There's a difference. My voice cracks on the last word. I bite down on it, hard. For a few long seconds, we just stare at each other. Rain hammers the windows like it's trying to drown the silence. Something shifts in his scent. Anger cooling, sharp edges softening into something I can't name. His gaze drops briefly to my hands, still trembling in my lap, then to the faint line of my collar. He closes his eyes for half a heartbeat. When he opens them again, the fury is banked, not gone but controlled. I should kill you, he says calmly. Or lock you somewhere until I wring every detail out of you. Yeah, I say quietly. You should. His jaw flexes. But. I prompt when he doesn't continue. He lets out a slow breath. But you told me things tonight only 4 people knew. And I know for a fact, none of them have been near Cade in the last 2 years. He tilts his head, studying me like he's seeing something new. And I know, he adds, voice lower, when someone is lying to me. Our eyes meet. There's no power flare, no dramatic thunderclap, just a heavy, undeniable weight settling between us. For reasons I don't like, he says, I believe you. A laugh catches in my throat and comes out as a shaky exhale. Congratulations. That makes one of us. He almost smiles. Almost. Don't get used to it, he says. Trust is a currency I don't spend lightly. I watch him, heart beating too fast, hands still trembling, mask slipping at the edges. Funny, I murmur. Same. For the first time since this started, the word that slips, uninvited, into the back of my mind isn't enemy or captor. It's ally. Temporary. Dangerous. Wrong. But real. And that terrifies me more than any auction ever did. By the time night drops over the city, the world outside River's fortress looks exactly like what it is, a place where people disappear and nobody asks questions. We're in the car again. Same sleek black thing, same quiet purr of the engine. But this time I'm not barefoot and half-drugged from an auction. I'm in dark clothes that actually fit, a jacket borrowed from some guard's spare locker, boots laced tight. No collar, just the faint imprint of it around my throat like a ghost. Progress, I guess. Outside the tinted windows, the streets are a blur of neon and rain-slick asphalt. Street lights smear across puddles like broken halos. Somewhere nearby, a siren wails and fades, uninterested in whatever we're about to do. Once more, River says from the seat beside me. His voice is low, focused. Route. I lean forward, elbows on my knees, eyes on the faint holographic map projected between us from the console. A three-dimensional grid of streets and alleys hovers in the air, points of light marking cameras, checkpoints, dead zones. He won't take main arteries this late, I say, tapping the map. He knows you've got eyes there. This block, I highlight a narrow corridor of streets near the river, has 3 blind spots if you kill the city feed for 30 seconds at a time. Enough to move without being seen. He'll start here, cut through the back alley, use this service road, and head to the warehouse on Pier 7. River studies the map, jaw tight. You're sure? If I was any more sure, I'd be psychic, I say. He used the same pattern with your shipments 3 months ago, and with theirs before that. He's lazy, River. Lazy and arrogant. People like that don't change what works until it stops. The corner of his mouth twitches like he wants to argue and can't find a good angle. Opposite us, one of his lieutenants, Mason, square shoulders, permanent frown, clears his throat. We've run models on this. The risk profile is why I'm here, I cut in. Your models didn't catch him for 6 months. My pattern did in 1 day. You're welcome, by the way. Mason bristles. You're an outsider. Correct. I flash him a quick, sharp smile. Which is why I'm not invested in pretending you did everything right. River lifts a hand, silencing the argument without looking away from the map. We follow Felix's route. Mason shuts his mouth with an audible click, muscles jumping in his jaw. River adds, almost as an afterthought. You all listen to him tonight. There's a beat of silence. I glance at him. Careful, you keep talking like that, and people might think I'm a person and not a problematic houseplant. He gives me a flat look. You're not a houseplant. Those are easy to maintain. I'm not sure whether to be insulted or weirdly flattered. The car slows as we merge into thinner traffic. The rain has turned to a fine mist that streaks across the glass in delicate lines. Positioning, River says. We box him in, I reply. You put 1 team here, I point to a side street near the warehouse, and 1 on the service road leading out. No sirens, no lights. We let him think he made it, and then close the jaws when he gets comfortable. You're disturbingly good at this, Mason mutters. Bad habits, I say. Occupational trauma. River's gaze flicks to me, then away. We take him alive if possible, he says. I want to know how far this rot goes. And if not possible? I ask. Dead men can't sell more of my people, he says simply. The car pulls into a darkened lot a few blocks from the docks. The smell hits as soon as the door opens. Salt, metal, oil, the faint stench of garbage and exhaust. The air is colder here. The kind of damp chill that gets into your bones. We step out into the night. Lights from the shipping cranes smear along the water, reflecting off the slow-moving river like fractured scars. The warehouse we're aiming for is a hulking shadow against the sky, edges lit by a few dim security lamps. River's people melt into the darkness with silent efficiency. Radios crackle softly in their ears. Guns are checked, positions confirmed. I stand beside River, shoving my hands into my pockets to keep them from shaking. Not from fear. From adrenaline. At least that's the story I'm sticking to. So, I say quietly, you usually bring your bought assets to work? You're not an asset tonight, he says. Oh? I arch a brow. What am I? Useful, he says. Try not to let it go to your head. A laugh slips out of me before I can stop it. Too late. I'm already insufferable. He huffs something that might be a laugh if he wasn't trying so hard to be unbothered. In the distance, headlights appear at the far end of the service road. A single van, moving at a controlled, unhurried pace. Not too fast, not too slow. Target approaching, someone murmurs through the comms. Team A hold, River says into his mic. His voice drops into that command tone that made me freeze in the kitchen. Team B, stay dark. The van rolls past the first blind spot, then the second. He's doing exactly what we thought he would. I exhale slowly, something sharp and satisfied unfurling in my chest. Told you, I murmur. Lazy. We wait until the van turns into the access lane leading toward the warehouse. The driver doesn't signal. No one ever does here. The engine hums as it pulls up to the side entrance. Now, River says. The air snaps into motion. 2 cars block the exit behind the van, cutting off retreat. Shadows detach from walls, River's people moving in with weapons drawn, quick and silent. A spotlight flicks on from somewhere above, bathing the van in harsh white light. Out. River orders. His voice echoes across the loading bay. Hands where I can see them. For a few seconds, nothing happens. Then the driver's door opens. He steps out slowly, hands up. Shorter than River, leaner, hair slicked back. He's dressed like any mid-level manager in this part of town. Neutral jacket, dark jeans. Forgettable. Except I've seen him before. In this house. In these halls. He was there the day they walked me past the control room, chatting with Mason like they'd grown up together. A murmur runs through the men as they recognize him. Lyle. Someone breathes. River's shoulders go very still. River, Lyle says, blinking against the light. This isn't what it looks like. Then it's a miracle, I mutter under my breath. River doesn't move closer yet. He just watches, cold and sharp. You've been diverting shipments for 6 months, he says. Selling routes, selling names, selling my people. Lyle laughs weakly. It sounds thin in the open air. Rumors. You know how your enemies talk? I feel it then. A wave of something in the air, like heat, like an edge. River's ability, that strange quiet thing he does when he's listening past the words. He takes one small step forward. Lie, he says softly. Lyle flinches. He looks past River then, eyes landing on me. His expression twists. And this, he spits, is who you bring to judge me, the auction scrap? He worked with them before you ever touched him. You really think he's on your side, River? The words hit harder than I like. I lift my chin. Hi. Standing right here. Lyle jabs a finger in my direction, voice rising. He'll sell you too. He did it to us, he'll do it to you. That's what he is. A survivor. He goes where the power is. My throat tightens. He's not entirely wrong, not entirely right either. That's the problem with people who know parts of your story. They think the fragment they have is the whole picture. River doesn't look at me. For a terrifying second, I think he might listen. Then his hand lifts, palm open, not to me but to his men. Nobody touches him, he says, voice like ice. Felix works for me. Something hot and wild flares in my chest. Works with, I correct under my breath. Because I have to. Because otherwise I might choke on it. Lyle laughs again, desperate and ugly. You're blind, he's poison. The anger that's been quietly simmering under my skin all night snaps into focus. Funny, I say. Stepping forward before anyone can stop me. That's exactly what I thought about you when you tried to sell me twice. A few heads turn. River's men look between us. Realizing there's more history here than they knew. Lyle sneers. Oh right. The little Omega who thought he was above his station. I was above yours, I say. My voice comes out calm. Too calm. You sold routes that got people killed. You put my name on lists I never agreed to. And when things got hot, you tried to trade me like a spare part. I take another step, until the light hits my face full on, washing out the exhaustion and leaving the anger. You want to talk about poison? I say softly. Look in the mirror. Lyle's face contorts. For a second, I think he's going to lunge at me, which would be impressive considering the gun's pointed at him. His hand twitches toward his jacket instead. I see it before anyone else moves. Gun. I shout. Everything happens at once. River's arm comes up, shoving me back behind him. Shots crack through the air. 2, 3, deafening in the enclosed space. Someone curses. Someone falls. There's the screech of tires as one of the cars shifts. When the noise fades, Lyle is on his knees, the gun kicked several feet away. A dark stain spreading across his sleeve, where a bullet caught his arm. River hasn't moved from in front of me. His body is a solid wall between me and the chaos, back broad, shoulders tense. I can feel the heat coming off him, the steady, controlled force of him. He turns his head slightly, just enough that I can see the edge of his profile. "You all right?" he asks. The "you" hangs in the air between us. For a second, there's nothing else. No guns, no traitors, no rain or sirens or watching eyes. Just him and me, and the fact that his first instinct was to shield, not shove. I swallow, heart hammering too fast. "Fine," I say, voice rough. "You." He huffs out a breath. "This suit is ruined." A breathless, shaky laugh slips out of me. It's ridiculous. We're standing in a crime scene and I'm laughing because he's complaining about his suit. But the look he gives me then, brief, sharp, and almost relieved, makes something inside my chest shift. Behind us, his men move in to secure Lyle. Orders are barked. Radios chatter, restraints click. "Bag him," River says, finally turning away. He talks before he bleeds out. As they haul Lyle to his feet, the traitor twists his head, eyes burning into me. "You think you're safe with him?" He snarls hoarsely. "You're just another weapon. When he's done you'll be—" "Quiet," River says. The word lands like a blade. Lyle's mouth snaps shut. Whether from fear or pain or the shock of seeing River's control crack at last, I don't know. River looks at me then. Really looks. Rain glistening on his lashes. "Good call on the route," he says. I shrug, trying to play it off even as my pulse refuses to calm. "Told you. I'm annoyingly useful." His gaze holds mine a second longer than it should. For the first time, it doesn't feel like him and his people, and then me, the problem he's storing in the guest wing. For one fleeting, dangerous heartbeat it feels like we did this together. The wind up here smells different. Cleaner. Sharper. It cuts through the city's noise, and leaves only distance and light, and the awareness of how high I am. Below, the skyline stretches out in layers of gold and white, streets like glowing veins pulsing with lives that don't know my name and never will. I stand at the edge of the roof, hands on the cold railing, jacket pulled tight around myself. Somewhere inside the building below me, River's people are still wrapping up the mess from tonight. Reports filed, traitor secured, damage assessed. The machine turning smoothly again. I am not part of the machine. I came up here because I needed to breathe. Because after warehouses and guns, and that split second where he moved in front of me without thinking, the walls of the house felt too close. I could leave. The thought has been with me all night, quiet and persistent. I know the routes now. I know the blind spots, the security rhythms. I could be gone before sunrise, vanish into a city that has swallowed better people than me without a hiccup. That's what I do. That's how I survive. Except this time the thought doesn't come with relief. It comes with a weight in my chest that makes it hard to inhale. I hate that. I stare out over the lights and think about what happens if I stay. I become leverage. A weakness. The thing enemies point at when they want to hurt him, not physically but worse. I've done that math before, from the other side. I know how neatly people like me fit into plans like that. I can't be that. My fingers tighten on the railing. Footsteps sound behind me, soft but deliberate. I don't turn right away. I don't need to. "You're thinking too loudly," River says. I huff a weak laugh. "Didn't realize you could hear monologues now too." He comes to stand a few feet away. Far enough not to crowd me, close. Enough that I feel his presence like a steady weight in the air. He's without his jacket, midnight wind tugging at his shirt, hair just slightly out of place, a rare thing. For once, he looks human. "Are you leaving?" he asks. The question is simple. Too simple. "I was planning to," I say. He nods once, as if he expected that. No anger. No command to stop. Just a quiet acceptance that makes my throat tighten. "The gate schedule changes at 2, he says evenly. Cameras reset on the hour. "If you move now, you'll hit a blind spot at the south wall." I glance at him, startled. "You planned my escape?" I ask. "I planned for the possibility," he replies. "There's a difference." "God. Of course he did." I shake my head. "That's incredibly annoying." A ghost of a smile touches his mouth. "I get that a lot." We stand there, the city roaring softly below us. The lights flicker as clouds drift, making shadows crawl across the rooftops. "You're not a liability," he says into the wind. I swallow. "You don't know that." "I do," he says, and there's something different in his voice now. Not command, not cool assurance. Something quieter. "You're not a commodity, and you're not an accident." I turn to face him fully. "Then, what am I?" The question slips out rawer than I intend. He studies me for a long moment. Really looks at me. The wind lifts the edge of my jacket, flutters my hair into my eyes. When he speaks again, it's slow, careful. "You're a problem," he says. "One I don't want to solve." I snort helplessly. "That's your idea of comfort?" "Yes," he says. "Because everything else in my life is something to be managed, controlled, eliminated. You aren't." His gaze holds mine, steady and open in a way that makes my chest ache. "And that scares you?" I say quietly. "Yes," he replies without hesitation. "That's new." The wind surges around us, tugging us a fraction closer together. The space between us feels charged, humming, not just with hormones or instincts or all the things this world insists should matter, but with something brittle and real. For a moment, it feels like we might lean in at the same time. My breath catches. His does too. I can hear it, see the slight shift of his shoulders as he inhales. This is how it happens in stories. The kiss that seals the choice. The chemistry finally snapping into place. I step back. Not because I don't want it, because I want it too much. He stills instantly, catching the retreat without chasing it. He doesn't reach out. Doesn't trap me in a corner, or close the distance again. He lets me have the space. "That's not fear," he says softly. "Is it?" My laugh comes out shaky. "I wish." I drag a hand through my hair, staring past him at the edge of the roof. "I can't stay because you want me," I say. "Or because this feels good." I stay and suddenly I'm your weak point. The thing they use to get to you. I've seen what that does to people. "I know," he says. And there's no disagreement in it. I live with the aftermath. Silence stretches between us. Honest. Uncomfortable. "I won't cage you," he says finally. "Or protect you by locking you away. If you leave, I'll make sure you get out clean. No shadows, no trackers." My chest tightens again, painfully. He's giving me an out that's actually an out. No hooks. No hidden clauses. "And if I stay?" I ask. He meets my gaze. "Then you stay because you chose to. Not because I bought you. Not because you owe me." The city hums below us. The wind tugs at us again. This is the part I'm bad at. The part with no clear exit signs, no obvious enemy. I look away, then back. "For the record," I say, trying for light and failing a little, "you're very bad at convincing people to leave." "I know," he says. "I'm hoping you're worse at leaving than you think." I breathe in. The air is cold and alive, burning my lungs in a way that feels like being awake. "I'm not promising anything," I say. "I wouldn't trust you if you did," he replies. I step closer, not all the way. Just enough that our shadows overlap on the concrete. "Tonight," I say slowly. "I won't go." His breath catches. He doesn't hide it. "Tomorrow?" he asks. I tilt my head. "We'll see how honest you stay." A corner of his mouth lifts, not quite a smile. "Fair." For a moment nothing else exists. No syndicates, no ghosts in the walls, no future rushing toward us with all its sharp edges. Just two people standing on a roof, choosing not to run. And for now, that's enough. Morning changes the house. Not dramatically, River doesn't suddenly start hanging throw pillows or anything. But the light is different. Softer, warmer. The kind of light that sneaks past concrete and glass, and pretends this place was built for living, not surviving. I notice because I'm still here. The realization hits me halfway through my second cup of coffee in the kitchen, standing barefoot on cold stone tiles while an obscenely expensive machine hisses and steams like it's offended by my existence. I stayed. No guards dragged me back last night. No locked doors. No alarms. Just a choice. "That's illegal," I mutter at the coffee after my first sip. "This is not coffee. This is emotional sabotage. Drink it anyway." River's voice comes from behind me, calm, controlled, irritatingly awake for someone who probably slept 4 hours max. I glance over my shoulder. He's leaning against the counter near the windows, sleeves rolled, expression neutral but eyes different. Softer, somehow. Less like I'm a situation, and more like I'm a person inconveniently standing in his kitchen. You know, I say, lifting the cup. Normal humans brew this stuff to stay alive. Normal humans don't complain this much, he replies. Wrong. Normal humans complain constantly. I'm just better at it. The corner of his mouth twitches. Later, after coffee, after a real breakfast I don't throw a tantrum over, we end up in his office again. Same room as before, but the rain is gone. Sunlight spills through the tall windows, scattering reflections across the glass walls and holographic panels. The map of the city still glows faintly, but the red zones have dimmed. Restored order. Or at least, patched chaos. I sit where I sat before, legs crossed, posture relaxed on purpose. He stands by the desk, reviewing something on a floating display before dismissing it with a flick of his wrist. Then he looks straight at me. I want you to stay, he says. No command. No edge. Just truth. I tilt my head. Wow. That was almost romantic. Terrifying, really. I'm serious, he adds. I'm offering you a position. Officially. My brow lifts. Let me guess. Decorative omega? No. Morale booster? No. Threat deterrent? You introduce me at meetings and everyone gets nervous? A pause. Tempting, he admits. But no. I grin. Victory. What then? I ask. You're needed, he says. As an analyst, strategist. Someone who sees patterns my people miss. Someone not raised inside this structure. I study him carefully. And here comes the fine print, I say. You're free to leave, he says immediately. If it stops working, if you want out, no trackers, no contracts you can't read. I blink. That's new. Okay, I say slowly. But I have conditions. Of course I do. His brow arches. I expected that. I clear my throat theatrically and start counting on my fingers. 1. The right to argue with you. Publicly. No. Yes. We'll negotiate, he concedes. 2. The right to throw soft objects at you during said arguments. He exhales. Defines soft. Pillows. Occasionally folded clothing. Never anything sharp. Ridiculous, he mutters. And 3, I finish. Raising the coffee mug for emphasis. Proper coffee. His gaze drops to the cup in my hand. Returns to my face. No, he says. I gasp. Monster. You'll drink what we have. You're impossible. And yet, he says calmly, you're still standing here. I hate that he's right. I slide off the chair and walk closer, stopping just in front of him, not invading, not retreating. Just close. So, I say quietly. If I stay, this isn't ownership. No. It's not protection with strings. No. And I don't become your weakness. The pause this time is real. You'll be your own, he says finally. Anything else is dishonest. Something in my chest loosens. Just a little. We step into the inner courtyard not long after. A space I didn't even know existed until today. Open sky above, stone benches, low greenery tucked between sharp architectural lines. Sunlight spills freely here, unhindered by bulletproof glass. Freedom, disguised. We stop near the center. He turns to face me fully. This is your last chance to walk away, he says. I glance around. The quiet hum of the city beyond the walls. The absurd peace of it. The fact that for the first time in longer than I can remember, I don't feel like I'm running or being chased. I know, I say. Then I lean in. Slowly. Obviously. Giving him time to pull back if he wants to. He doesn't. The kiss is nothing like I imagined. No spark exploding. No fangs or claws or urgency. Just warm. Steady. Certain. His hand rests lightly at my waist, not pulling me closer, just there. Mine settles against his chest, feeling the solid real beat of his heart under my palm. When we part, it's unhurried. We don't pretend it solves anything, but it says enough. Later, much later, I find myself sitting in sunlight again, watching shadows shift. Along the courtyard floor, listening to voices echo faintly from inside. Part of something. Still myself. And as the thought settles in, I smile despite myself. They bought me. But for the first time in my life, it was on my own terms.